Hello everyone, this is Yuri from Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports, and we are back with another track guide for Coach Dave Academy. This time we're on iRacing. It's going to be Imola for week 11 at IMSA. We're in the Porsche GT3R, and this track's quite interesting. It's also quite tricky because there's a couple corners where there's curbs, like anti-cuts, on top of the curb. And if you take the right line, the car will bounce over them. On top of that, they changed the track limits a couple seasons ago, and it's quite tricky to stay within the track limits everywhere. It's not always very clear where they are. Without further ado, let's look how this looks like, get into the lab, and see how to be fast around this combo. Alright, so here we are at the end of the lab. As usual, we'll be running race fuel. And Imola is a track where it's very important to not just get the balance right, but also the lines right. There's certain spots where you can hop over a curb if you take the line just right, if you go with the right angle over a curb. And of course, they changed the track limits here a couple seasons ago, and since then it's quite hard to do the whole race without getting too many incident points. Running up to turn 1, of course we want to get the straightest line to turn 1, but we also want to brake into turn 1 in a straight line. That way we can brake later, keep it third and turn 1 to keep the speed up. We want to be looking at the first anti-cut and just about miss that. And jump over the inside ones there as well. Focusing on a good exit here. The hill here again. Want to make sure we don't go over that limit on the exit. Minerale here, very tricky to brake. As much in a straight line as possible here. Then the chicane, always tricky with track limits as well. Try to set up for decent exits still. And we can use the curb on the exit there. For the last two corners. Very tricky to find your braking point for the left-hander. Go up, turn into the inside. And try to use the curbs here on the left and right side. Set up for a good exit. And then again, straight as run to the line. And that's a lap around Imola. Let's have a look how this looks like from the outside cam. Alright, so here we are at the start of the lap. Just want to have clear straight run to turn 1. And then turn 1, like, it's obvious we want to brake in a straight line, but in this case here, we can't really come from the outside and just brake in a straight line next to the white line. So it's gonna be up to us to find a way to get to the outside point here, braking as much in a straight line as we can, while also having our car pointing a bit towards the corner instead of just pointing straight. So we can't really brake from the inside here in a straight line to here, because then we have too much corner to do. The way I like to do that is bring the car over to as much to the right side as I can here, then turn a bit before the car or the track kinks to the left, and then try to brake in a straight line around the 100 board, around where this kink is, and then we brake to the outside, and you see my cars trying to follow the right side line now. Try to keep it in third, and try to keep the speed up through here, and in these corners in the first chicane you don't really want to take the anti-cuts. They're too high and the car doesn't really bounce nicely over them. Focus on a good exit. With how much downforce the cars have currently in GT3 and iRacing, we can run all the way to the left side curb here and still take this curb or this turn 3 flat out quite easily. I think you can also take the anti-cut here, but again, because we have so much downforce, it's not really needed. You can run all the way right on the exit here. Then turn 4 is going to be the first corner. That's interesting. Again, we want to run all the way to the right side, try to open up the corner, because we want to enter the right-hander as far to the left as we can. And how we're going to do that is we're going to brake in a straight line here. Braking too much while turning in this car makes the rear very unstable, so we want to avoid that as much as we can. And then we want to miss the first anti-cut and then go over the second one. And the reason for that is that we want to get towards the left side of the track here. But also, if you look at it, the line we take here, we can use this red and white curb to kind of launch our car so it flies over this anti-cut curb. So you see it bounces up here, and then we don't really hit the anti-cut much. You see the tires hit it, but because the left side of the car is unloaded, the tires hit it, they don't really unsettle the car too much. And the car kind of just glides over the anti-cut on the inside here. It doesn't get affected too much. That way we can stay much further towards the inside. See, we end up here, entering for the right-hander, almost at the white line, without really upsetting the car too much. Again, we want to get the brake in as much in a straight line as possible. If we're braking too much towards the corner here, the rear will get too loose because all the weight in the car is on the rear. And on high speed, the Porsche on entry tends to oversteer if you have too much combined inputs. So we go off the brakes quite early and do the same thing on the right side here. We want to get a good angle on this red and white curb, have the car jump up in the air a bit, and then when we hit the inside anti-cut here, the car doesn't really get affected too much. See how the rear even on this lap completely bounces over it, and the way that looks like in full speed is like that. You see that the car doesn't really get affected too much by the anti-cut, and it allows us to take a lot more of the apex. On the exit here, we want to keep our right side tires on this red and white curbing. If you run to the left side, I think even before you get to the gravel, you can get an off track. So look at this line instead of trying to avoid the gravel. Then we get to the hairpin. Again, bring the car all the way over to the right. Brake after the 50 marker. And what I like to do here is apex very, very late. So we come to the outside, we apex very, very late. And then we try to get a good exit out of the corner. And the reason for that is that we're running uphill from low speed. So any speed we can carry on the exit is speed we carry all the way up the hill. So we sacrifice the entry a bit for a really good exit. Next corner, we just want to keep the speed up. I like to even keep it in 4th gear. Again, not too many combined inputs because the rear will try to step out here. The exit don't go too wide here. I think even if your left side tires are slightly touching this curb, like iRacing in the rules here says it would be allowed, it will give you an off track, which is very frustrating. So try to keep your tires quite far on this curb to avoid the off track. And then by far the most tricky corner I think on this track, Aqua Minerale. It's very tricky again because in the Porsche we can't do too many combined inputs, but we're kind of forced here to do the combined inputs. Because we can't really not turn here and we can't really brake way before the corner and then just let the car roll this whole bit here because the second apex is much tighter than the first one. And the way I try to solve this is try to stay as far on the left as I can here, turn in late and run all the way over the curb on the inside and then try to brake from here to here in a straight line. This looks like, get to the curb, try to brake a bit as much as you can in a straight line. And the more you're turning, the more you have to come off the brakes. So here again, a bit of a straight line braking, the brake goes up a bit. And we try to keep the speed up in the apex. Again, these anti-cuts here are too high, or this red and white curving is too low, so we can't take these anti-cuts in this position. And then in the exit, second gear, we can run all the way to the left here, and as long as your right side tires have contact with this red and white curving, you're fine regarding off tracks. So what you can do as well is instead of running off here already, you can kind of follow the inside white line, keep your left side tires on this green patch for quite a while and gain like an extra couple hundreds. And then the one that will really kill your safety rating, the chicane here. There will be a lot of frustrated qualifying laps ended here. I use a 50 marker as a braker, try to set up the car for the exit. The first curb here, you want to keep the left side tires within the white lines, I think it is. So try to get as far to this white line as you can. Try to open up the left hand as much as you can. Exit from here and you want to be turning left before you get to the curb here already. You want to make sure that you got a good exit, and you want to set up the car already for the exit here. And then on the exit, we can use, again, the red and white curbing. If you go over this, you get an off track. Second to last corner here. Also very tricky, because if you go in the car view, it's very hard to spot your braking point here. It's not the 100, it's not the 50, it's somewhere in the middle. And we're going downhill here, which means that if you slightly miss your braking point, you go very deep into the corner. Brake point, somewhere in the middle. I don't really have a perfect reference here. Quite tricky to see where it is. Again, braking quite hard in a straight line. And you want to be using this inside curb here if you can. Gives you that extra bit of bite on the front end if you take this. Corner exit, again, just like a previous corner, we want to be 2 tires on this red and white curbing. And turning quite late for the last corner here. If you drift too early towards the inside here, so off this curb, then you're going to be sacrificing the entry speed. And what we want to do, just like in the hairpin going up the hill, we want to maximize the exit speed by turning in late, going in quite slow, and going on throttle early. And I found as well, if I use this inside green here, the car rotates a bit better. Then again, on throttle really, really early, try to set up for a good exit onto the main straight again. And it's the same here. Have your tires on the red and white curbing. You can be off the gravel, but still getting an off track here. So it's quite tricky. Don't look at the gravel. Try to look at this line here instead. Now we got to run to the line. Just keep it as tight as you can. Close to the wall here. Second kink as well, close to the wall. And that's the lap around Imola in the Porsche GT3R. So there we go. That was the lap around Imola in the Porsche GT3R. Quite tricky in a lot of places. You need to get the line absolutely right to get the jump over those anti-cuts in a couple places. It will take a couple tries, but I'm sure that once you figure it out, you'll gain quite a bit of speed and also enjoyment out of this track when the car stops bouncing a lot. Hope everyone learned something, and if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. See you guys next time.